Hello and welcome to IP Study video lectures, and today we are going to discuss chapter 14 from grade 6 social science, and the name of the chapter is Understanding Economic Activities. So this is the last chapter, and in this chapter we are going to discuss few important topics. These are primary sector activities, secondary sector activities, tertiary sector activities, and interdependence among sectors. These three sectors, okay? So before we discuss what are the different types of economic activities or sector economic activities, let us understand economic activities and its nature. Okay, so when I talk about economic activities, what are economic activities or what is an economic activity? So any activity that gives us money, or when we do that activity we earn money or monetary benefit, that is termed as economic activity. Okay, and non-economic activities we have already discussed in our previous chapter. Okay, so I'll just discuss what economic activities are. So any activity that gives us monetary benefit or we earn money by doing that activity is an economic activity. And the nature, when we talk about the nature of economic activity, it evolves over time. So what does it mean? That means whatever valuable today, or whichever economic activity has value today, it might not have that same value, or it might even cease to exist in coming days, right? When I say cease to exist, I can give you an example like messenger. In ancient times, different kingdoms used to have messengers, and they used to carry messages from one kingdom to another. But with time and with advancement in technology, that economic activity ceased to exist. It is not a valuable economic activity, or it doesn't exist also in today present time, right? So why does economic activity change or evolve? It is due to the changing nature of our demand or requirement. Economic activity exists because or based on our requirement or need. So for hundreds of years, people were engaged in economic activities like agriculture, pottery, craftsmen, weaving and all. Okay, but today the economic activities have changed. As I've already said, it has changed due to different things like with time, advancement in technology, right? Cultural assimilation or influence of culture. Different activities has now come into existence. For example, robotics or aerospace, right? All these activities, we could not find these activities in the past 200 years. Before 200 years, we had no idea what data science was or software development was. But with time, when technology advances or changes, our economic activity also changes. Okay, so based on this nature of economic activity, we can classify economic activities into three types. Okay, first is primary sector activities, secondly secondary sector activities, and lastly tertiary sector activities. So in primary sector activities, we can find agriculture, mining, fishing, raising livestock and forestry. In secondary sector, we can see manufacturing, construction. We can see activities like transportation, communication, healthcare, education, banking, insurance and warehousing, trade, travel and tourism. So now let us discuss these activities, different type of activities in detail. What are primary sector activities? Now let us discuss what primary sector activities are. So primary sector activities are those activities that are directly connected to nature. So what does it mean? Means we all know that nature provides us different things or resources and we cannot survive without it, right? So those activities that are involved in gathering, extracting or harvesting these resources are termed as primary economic activities. So if you look at agriculture, it is directly related to nature. Mining, directly related to extracting minerals from the earth. Fishing, directly related to the resources provided by earth. So again, I'll repeat, primary activities or primary sector activities are those activities, economic activities that are directly connected to nature. Okay, let us now see some important primary sector activities. Firstly, it's agriculture, right? So we all know what agriculture is. Agriculture involves growing crops and raising animals to get their products, right? We grow different type of crops like wheat, rice, millets, cotton and so on. And at the same time, we also raise different type of animals. It can be goat, sheep, cows, buffalo and so on to get their product. So but one thing we should know that agriculture is one of the oldest and most important economic activities, and it provides not just us with food but also raw material for other economic activities. So now next, some mining. So what does mining involve? Mining involves extracting valuable minerals from the earth, right? So we have all seen a coal mine right here. Coal mining has been done. So it is through mining we get valuable metals from the mother earth, and we utilize this metal in different other activities, like in order to make different products like machinery, electronics and so on. So mining is very essential for industry that actually depend on the raw material like minerals as their raw material. Next, fishing. Fishing involves catching fish and other aquatic animals from the water bodies. It can be oceans, it can be lakes, it can be rivers, and fishing provides food, or it's one of the main important source of food for the people living in the coastal region, okay, near the coastal areas. Not just coastal areas, but people who lives far away from the coastal area, but mainly for coastal areas. And fishing industry not only provide us with food, but it also provide product like fish oil, fish meal, which is very much important in medicine and fertilizers, okay. So now let us see raising livestock. So we have already discussed in agriculture also we raise and take care of animals for their products, right? Like we raise animals and we get products from them like meat, milk, eggs and other products also. And raising animals is important economic activity for leather and clothing industry, okay. And lastly, forestry. Forestry means management of forest for their product. So we get so many different kind of products from forest. We get timber, we get fuel, we get fruits, we get other medicinal products also from forest. What are secondary sector activities? So we have already discussed that in primary sector activities we are directly connected to nature, or we extract, gather things directly from nature. But we should understand that many of those things are not directly consumed by us. So it needs to be, those are raw material, right? It has to be processed and turned into a finished product that are suitable for us to consume. So that role is done by secondary sector activities. So secondary sector activities are those activities that involve processing raw material into finished products or consumer goods. Okay, for example, we get cotton from a cotton plant. But are we able to use it directly? No, we have to process it, make it, convert it into our clothes, and then we consume it or we use it. Same thing with biscuits. When we eat biscuits, we do not directly grow biscuits, right? We grow sugarcane, we grow wheat, we process all those things and then we make biscuits and then we consume it. So secondary sector activities is involved in processing or transforming raw material into finished products, okay. So for example, what are the different or common secondary sector activities? First one is manufacturing. So manufacturing involves turning raw material into finished product, like I have already discussed. So you take a raw material, you process it and you develop or you make a finished product that can be consumed or used by us. For example, iron and steel industry, it transforms metals or minerals into products that can be used in construction, in making automobiles or so on. Textile production, as I've already given you example of cotton. So textile production converts or turns cotton, wool or other synthetic fiber into clothes, mattresses and things we wear. Food processing. Food processing transforms raw material into finished products like milk into cheese or milk product or dairy products, or fruits into jams. We have a fruit, we process it, we get jam or juice. So now lastly, automobile production, right, or automobile industry. So these industry, what they did, they assembles different material to make vehicles, right? So in order to make tire, we have to make sure that we get rubber, or in order to make the body, we have to make sure that we get aluminum or iron or steel. So when we combine and assemble all this, we get a vehicle, right? So although primary economic activities are providing us with the minerals or resources, but we cannot directly use it. So it is the secondary sector or secondary sector economic activities that make sure that we can get the things that we can easily use. So now another economic activity that belongs to secondary sector is construction. So what does construction involve? It involves using raw materials like cement, bricks, wood to make structure, homes, settlements, big infrastructure, building, bridges. So construction is one of the important economic activity that actually helps in the development and growth of infrastructure in a region or a country. Next economic activity is electricity generation. So electricity generation involves converting materials like coal or sources of power like coal, natural gas, wind and water into electricity. Okay. So power plant and renewable energy facilitates the creation of electricity. So it creates electricity that power our homes, industries and so on. And lastly, we have water supply and treatment. So water supply and treatment, what does it do? It processes and delivers clean water to our house, farms or industry. So now let us discuss tertiary sector activities. So what are tertiary sector activities? So we have to understand one thing. In tertiary sector activities, there is no production of goods. Okay, it only involves providing services. Okay, so it is for this reason tertiary sector activities are also called service sector. Okay, so in this sector, tertiary sector activities, there are no production of goods. Only services are being provided. So why is this important? This sector important? Because primary sector, secondary sector, they are all dependent on tertiary sector for many things. For example, suppose take an example of textile mills. Okay, so this is a textile mill. For that I need cotton, right? So cotton is here. So I grow cotton. It is important for me to transport this cotton to a processing industry or processing factory. So for that I need service. So it is tertiary sector activities that provide this. And in factory, obviously secondary sector activities happen. The raw material are processed into final goods. Suppose we get the final good. We have to make sure that it is distributed to different outlets or shops. So again we need services of tertiary sector. And now once we reach the market, different retailers, so they also provide services by selling these goods. So that is why tertiary sector is very important, because it involves providing services rather than production of goods. So it helps in smooth functioning and efficient functioning of the primary sector activities and secondary sector activities. So what are the common tertiary sector activities? Firstly, transportation. As we have already discussed, transportation provides services so that the people and goods can be transported from one place to another. I have already given the example. Cotton grown in a farmland needs to be transported to the textile factory where it is processed into clothes. And again from there, the finished product that are clothes needs to be transported to market. So transportation, this service provides a very important role. Communication. So not just transportation, we have to also be able to communicate properly. So communicate service involves services that connects people or different sectors. For example, a factory, it requires communication to make sure that it knows how its operation and logistic is functioning. And at the same time, people like community like fishermen, they should know what is the weather condition. They should be able to understand or get the information about the weather before they sail out for fishing. Thirdly is healthcare. So healthcare services are very important because it includes doctor, nurses, hospital and clinics. They provide necessary treatment and health related services, and it is very much important. So now let us discuss another tertiary sector activity, that is education. So teachers, schools, universities, they make sure that education services are provided to the coming generation, like they nurture the students with skills and knowledge so that they can further contribute to the economy. Banking, insurance and warehousing. So banking, it provides or offers facilities like loan or deposits and all, and it is very much necessary for us to run business. We need loan. For a common person, we need services like depositing our money. On the other hand, insurance, it offers protection against unwanted risk, and at the same time warehousing makes sure that our goods are safely stored in a storage. Now comes trade. So what does trade mean? So trade involves exchange of goods and services between buyers and sellers. And this service is very much important because if we make sure that if we grow crops, we have to make sure that we also sell them. So this service of traders are very much important. Lastly, travel and tourism. So we should understand tourism is one of the most fastly growing industry in today's world, right? So hotels, restaurants and places of attraction, it provides different services to the people traveling to different parts of the world, and these services make sure that the different sectors are also benefited. Different sectors of the economy are benefited through these services. Okay. So what do we understand by interdependence among sectors? We should understand one thing, that these three sectors, they do not work in isolation. Okay, they are interconnected with each other. Okay, so they are not isolated but interconnected and interdependent with each other. So let us take an example of tea cultivation in Assam. So in Assam, so teas are cultivated on the slopes of Assam, in Assam, in the hills of Assam. But after tea are harvested, it is necessary to transport them into processing unit or an industry. So since cultivation and harvesting of tea belongs to primary sector, but the transportation, it belongs to tertiary sector, and in the processing unit or industry, secondary economic activities happen, that is transformation of raw material into finished products. Okay, so this is secondary activity. So once the raw materials are, or the tea leaves are processed into tea, it is then distributed to different parts of the world. So here also tertiary activity, and to different retailers also. So here also tertiary activity. So what did we understand from this example? That means from this example, we have learned that different economic sector or economic activities, they are interdependent. Primary sector activity, as we can see here, cultivation and harvesting of tea leaves. Once it is cultivated and harvested, it has to be processed, that is secondary sector activity. And lastly, tertiary sector activity, all the transport facilities and selling of tea, this belongs to tertiary. So that means these three are interconnected among each other. Similarly, sugarcane example has been given. Maharashtra, in warm climate, it is grown in warm climate in Maharashtra. Once harvested, it is transported to sugar mill, where it is manufactured into sugar and other products, and from there advertisement and every other services, it belongs to tertiary activity. So now let us discuss about Amul. So Amul is a very good example of how different economic sector or different activities are interconnected and how it plays an important role in development of a particular industry. So the story of Amul. So Amul stands for Anand Milk Union Limited. Okay, the story of Amul is very interesting and unique. So it was established in 1946 in Anand district in Gujarat. Okay, so now the story begins when the milkmen or the farmers, they were facing a lot of challenges while selling their milk. So they had to travel to a long distance while selling their milk, and because of the climate, the hot climate, the milk was easily spoiled, and for this reason they had to rely on middlemen who used to collect their milks and then sell them and then give the profit. But the problem was the money they received for their milk was too less. So because of this challenge, they then approached Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the then Deputy Prime Minister of India. So the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, they advised the milkmen to work under the leadership of Tribhuvan Das Patel and Dr. Varghese Khuren. So as we can recall, Dr. Varghese Khuren is also called the father of White Revolution. So White Revolution is related to milk industry. Okay, so they then developed a cooperative under the leadership of Tribhuvan Das Patel and Dr. Varghese Khuren. So when they established the cooperative, they started working among themselves. They started collecting their milk, they started distributing it themselves, and transporting it themselves. So what happened was the middleman, the role of middleman was completely removed. And the story of Amul is important also because they not only promoted the milkmen, but the women were also in the front line. So the story of Amul actually is very much interesting. Why? Another reason, the economic sectors involved in this. So all the three economic sectors were involved in this. Firstly, primary sector. So it involves those economic activity like farmers raising the cattle or cows, milking them. So it involves direct extraction of from natural sources. So it is primary sector. After that comes secondary sector. So once the cooperative started earning a good amount of profit, it expanded its market. Okay, so they not started only collecting milk, but they also started transforming milk into different dairy products like butter, cheese, curd. So that means value addition or transformation of raw material into finished product. So this involved secondary sector in the story of Amul. So now let us see how tertiary sector was involved in the case of Amul. So Amul had developed a very comprehensive distribution market, right? A huge network of market. So using the transportation service, it made sure that its product reached or were distributed in the different shops within the Gujarat and beyond the borders of Gujarat. So in this way, we have learned how three different sectors were involved in the case of Amul. So the story of Amul, it teaches or it shows how, the power of cooperation, right? And also the interdependence of different economic sectors. So by combining the different efforts or different sectors like primary sectors, all the farmers, the milkmen, the secondary sector, the processor, the industries, and lastly the tertiary sectors or all the distributors or retail marketers. Okay, so with this, combining all the three sectors, Amul emerged one of the leading dairy industry within India. Okay, so with this we have come to the conclusion of the chapter. Now let us have a brief summary of the chapter. So first, economic activities are classified into three types, right? Primary, secondary and tertiary. Primary sector, it involves extraction of natural resources directly from the nature like farming, mining, fishing, forestry. Secondary sector, it involves transformation of raw material into finished products or the products that we can use. All the manufacturing industry, construction, power generation. Tertiary, it involves, or it is also, we can also say that tertiary sector is also called service sector, right? It provides services like transportation, communication, healthcare, education. And lastly, economic sectors are interdependent. They cannot work in isolation. They are interdependent. And if primary sector provides raw material, secondary sector transform them, and tertiary sector supports distribution and services. I hope this lecture helps you clarify your doubts, and we will meet again in our next class. Thank you.